Chapter 1. The Price Was Me. Ezra Vale learned the exact worth of his life on a rainy Tuesday afternoon, measured not in blood or bone, but in numbers written calmly across a glass conference table. The debt was obscene, generational, crippling, the kind that hollowed out companies from the inside and left legacies bleeding quietly behind closed doors. The Vale Group, once respectable, once powerful, was on the verge of bankruptcy. And the man who now owned every last cent of that debt sat at the head of the table, legs crossed, expression serenely amused. Lucien Moreau, billionaire, Enigma, a man whose name alone made alpha executives sweat through tailored suits. Ezra stood behind his parents' chairs, arms crossed, jaw tight, knuckles scarred and restless. He didn't belong in rooms like this, he never had. Boardrooms hated him. Cameras loved him. Underground rings knew his name better than any shareholder ever would. Street fighter. Menace. The family's dirty secret. Lucien's gaze slid to him. And stayed. Ezra felt it like a touch. Slow, reverent, unblinking. Mr. Moreau, Ezra's father said hoarsely, fingers twisting together. We appreciate your willingness to acquire the debt. Truly. If there is any repayment plan. Lucien lifted one finger. The room went silent. I don't want your money, Lucien said mildly. Ezra's mother exhaled in relief too fast. I want your son. The words landed like a gunshot. Both parents froze. Ezra blinked once, twice, then barked a sharp, incredulous laugh. You've got to be joking. Lucien didn't look away from him. I'm very serious. Ezra's mother turned, already nodding nervously. Oh, of course. Our second son, Eli. He's a beta, very well educated, polite. No. Lucien finally glanced at her, smiling gently, like one might correct a child. I want the eldest. Silence swallowed the room whole. Ezra's father went pale. Ezra? Our Ezra? Yes. Ezra stared at Lucien, now disbelief bleeding into fury. You want me? Lucien's eyes softened. I've always wanted you. That was when Ezra lunged. Security moved fast, but Lucien raised his hand, stopping them mid-step. Ezra's fist slammed into a marble pillar instead, cracking the surface and splitting his knuckles open. Blood dripped. Ezra barely noticed. You think you can buy me? Ezra snarled. Chain me up? Torture me? You sick? Lucien rose slowly from his chair. No chains, he said calmly. No torture. He stepped closer, ignoring Ezra's blood, his rage, his teeth bared like a feral thing. I'm marrying you. Ezra laughed again, loud, sharp, unhinged. You're insane. Lucien smiled. I know. The wedding happened too fast. Papers, contracts, lawyers whispering themselves into migraines. The family lawyer, an alpha with 30 years of experience, looked like he was one breath away from fainting the entire time. Lucien's assistant, Camille, watched everything with bored efficiency, tapping on her tablet. Sir, she said dryly, the prenup is extensive. Lucien nodded. Naturally. He deserves everything. Ezra signed the marriage contract with a pen that cost more than his old apartment building. His hands shook, not from fear but disbelief. When the documents finalized, Lucien slid another folder across the table. A wedding gift. Ezra opened it. Froze. Inside were ownership transfers. The Vale Group, restored, debt-free, placed entirely under Ezra's name. And beneath it, another company, larger, older, more powerful. Ezra's breath stuttered. This has to be a mistake. Lucien leaned close, voice low and reverent. Nothing that belongs to my husband is a mistake. Ezra looked up at him, stunned. You're giving me my father's company. And more, Lucien said softly, because I can. Shock didn't begin to cover it. The mansion was worse. Billion-dollar architecture, glass, marble, gold threaded into places that had no business holding it. Ezra arrived like a hurricane. He smashed a chandelier within 10 minutes, threatened staff within 15. nearly started a fight with security, who, disturbingly, seemed impressed. Lucian watched it all with fond amusement. "He's adjusting," Lucian said calmly when Camille raised an eyebrow. Camille sighed. "Shall I call a therapist or a demolition crew?" "Neither," Lucian replied. "Bring him silk sheets and roses." Ezra overheard that. "Don't you dare." Too late. That night, Lucian led Ezra through glass doors into the back gardens. Ezra stopped dead. Rows upon rows of red roses stretched endlessly beneath soft golden lights, an entire garden blooming like spilled blood under the stars. Ezra swallowed. Lucian stepped behind him, voice almost worshipful. "I've been preparing it for years." Ezra turned slowly. "How did you know?" Lucian smiled. Flashbacks bloomed like poison. Years ago, Lucian watching underground fight footage. Ezra bloody, laughing, undefeated. Lucian researching his name, his habits. The alley where Ezra bought roses every week. The way he always chose red. "My red rose," Lucian whispered. Ezra should have run. Instead, his heart stuttered, traitorous, confused. Lucian pressed a kiss to the back of his hand. "You're home." Ezra looked at the garden, at the mansion, at the Enigma who had bought his life and handed him a kingdom. This wasn't captivity. It was worse. It was devotion. And Lucian Moreau had no intention of ever letting him go. Chapter 2. Menace in Silk. Ezra Vale discovered very quickly that being married to a billionaire Enigma did not come with a behavioral clause, which was unfortunate, because Ezra made it his personal mission to become Lucian Moreau's worst public relations nightmare. The first scandal happened at a charity gala. Black tie, crystal chandeliers, alphas and enigmas pretending they didn't tear apart industries for sport. Ezra arrived late, wearing silk and sin, collar open, knuckles bruised fresh from a fight Lucian had specifically asked him not to attend. Lucian watched him enter like the room had finally remembered how to breathe. Ezra leaned close and murmured, "Bet I can ruin your reputation in 10 minutes." Lucian smiled serenely. "You always underestimate yourself, my beautiful catastrophe." Ezra proceeded to insult 3 CEOs, flirt outrageously with Senator's husband, knock over a champagne tower, and nearly start a fight with an alpha investor twice his size. Lucian calmly bought the media house that attempted to report it. By morning, the headlines read, "Billionaire couple charms gala with unconventional energy." Ezra stared at the screen. "You're a stalker in a suit," he accused over breakfast. Lucian sipped his coffee. "And you married me anyway, my red rose." 10 months into the marriage, chaos had become routine. Ezra tried to escape 6 times. Each attempt ended the same way. Once by helicopter, once by speedboat, once dressed as a gardener. Lucian caught him every time, unruffled, gentle, terrifyingly patient. "You can do anything, my red rose," Lucian reminded him afterward, brushing dirt from Ezra's sleeve. "Fight, break things, embarrass me publicly." Ezra narrowed his eyes. "Accept leave." Lucian smiled. "Accept leave." Lucian hated Ezra's street fighting, which was ironic because he attended every match. Ezra stood in the underground ring, bloodied and grinning, crowd roaring. Lucian sat in the VIP area, tailored suit immaculate, clapping like a proud spouse. "That's my husband," Lucian told anyone who listened. Ezra knocked out his opponent and glanced up, locking eyes with Lucian. The sight of him, cheering, devoted, utterly unashamed, made Ezra's chest tighten in ways he refused to acknowledge. His friends noticed. "Bro," one of them teased, "your billionaire looks ready to propose again." Ezra scoffed. "He's obsessed." Lucian waved. The marking happened in their 6th month. It started as an argument. Ezra pacing, furious, daring. Lucian uncharacteristically silent, eyes dark. "You can't even mark me," Ezra taunted playfully. "What kind of enigma are you?" Lucian's smile vanished. That night, Ezra learned 2 things. Enigmas could permanently mark their mates, and Lucian had been holding back. The aftermath wasn't violent. It was devastatingly intimate. From then on, their nights were frequent, wordless, intense, something Ezra pretended meant nothing, except it did, and Lucian knew it. By the 10th month, Ezra's body betrayed him. It started with dizziness, then nausea, then exhaustion that no amount of stubbornness could fight. After a particularly vicious argument, Ezra accusing Lucian of control, Lucian accusing Ezra of recklessness, Ezra doubled over, breath hitching painfully. Lucian caught him instantly. "What's wrong?" Lucian demanded, panic cracking his composure for the first time. Ezra tried to shrug it off, but Lucian was already calling doctors, already holding him too tightly, already terrified. Ezra looked up at him, heart thudding. For the first time, he wondered, what exactly had Lucian done to him? And why did the thought of losing him suddenly feel impossible? Chapter 3, The Shape of Safety. Ezra noticed the change slowly, not in the dramatic, obvious ways he expected. No bloodshed, no disappearances, no threats whispered in the dark. It was worse than that. It was comfort. His old fight ring still existed. His friends still answered his calls. The world beyond Lucian's mansion hadn't vanished. But somehow, Ezra stopped needing it. He still fought, Lucian hated it, but never stopped him. In fact, Lucian ensured the rings Ezra frequented were suddenly safer. Better medics, cleaner money, no backroom predators sniffing too close. Ezra scoffed when he realized it. "You're bribing my hobbies now?" Lucian only smiled. "I'm investing in your continued existence." Lucian never told Ezra no. That was the trick. Instead, he anticipated. Ezra mentioned an old friend once, just once, and Lucian arranged a private jet in case Ezra wanted company someday. Ezra complained about insomnia, and suddenly Lucian adjusted his entire schedule to sleep later, wake earlier, exist around Ezra's rhythm. Territorial, possessive, subtle. Lucian never raised his voice, never grabbed, never threatened. He simply made himself indispensable. Camille noticed. "You're spoiling him," she remarked dryly one evening. Lucian didn't look up from the tablet tracking Ezra's vitals in real time. "I'm anchoring him." The argument happened on a quiet night. Too quiet. Ezra paced the bedroom, restless, skin buzzing wrong. His temper flared too fast, words sharp without meaning to be. "You're everywhere," Ezra snapped. "Do you ever stop watching me?" Lucian stood still. "I watch because I love," he said softly. "That's not normal." Lucian stepped closer, voice gentle enough to bruise. "Neither are you." Ezra shoved him. Lucian didn't retaliate. Didn't even move. The second shove landed harder. Ezra's fists shook, anger cracking into something raw and helpless. Lucian let it happen. When Ezra finally broke, hands bloody, breath hitching, it was Lucian who gathered him up, pressed his forehead to Ezra's, murmuring nothing at all. Blood dried. Tears cooled. Silence wrapped around them like a vow. That night, Lucian held Ezra as if afraid he'd vanish. The symptoms became impossible to ignore after that. Ezra collapsed mid-training. Lucian arrived before the medics. Always before. The doctor spoke carefully, eyes flicking between Alpha and Enigma. "Congratulations," she said. "You're pregnant." Ezra laughed. Once, then fainted. Lucian did not smile. He went still, deadly calm, terrifyingly gentle. From that moment on, everything changed. Ezra wasn't restricted. He was guided. Street fights? Lucian attended fewer, always citing timing issues. Time equals sign 0.6s. Friends? Invited to Lucian's estate, subtly out of Ezra's old environments. Food, carefully curated. Sleep, non-negotiable. "You're hovering," Ezra complained. Lucian adjusted Ezra's blanket with meticulous care. "I'm nesting." "That's my line." Lucian's eyes softened. "You're learning." One evening, as Ezra rested against him, Lucian finally spoke the words. Quiet, unthreatening, absolute. "You don't need to burn yourself to stay free," Lucian murmured. You already have me, my red rose. Ezra should have argued. Instead, he leaned closer, and Lucian smiled, slow, victorious, unseen, because the cage wasn't locked. Ezra had walked into it himself. Chapter 4. Domestic Hell with Roses. Forced caretaking did not arrive gently. It arrived like a hostile takeover. Lucian Moreau's Enigma instincts, once carefully leashed, snapped tight the moment Ezra's pregnancy became undeniable. The mansion transformed overnight. What had once been a luxurious battlefield became a fortress disguised as a sanctuary. Security doubled, then tripled. Doctors rotated on call like a clockwork. Nutritionists whispered reverently. Entire floors were converted into nesting spaces. Soft lighting, reinforced furniture, temperature-controlled rooms, scented faintly with roses. Ezra hated all of it. "I'm not fragile," he snapped, glaring at the third bodyguard posted outside the bedroom. Lucian adjusted Ezra's shawl with infuriating calm. "You are valuable." "That's worse." Lucian smiled, utterly unrepentant. The fights were banned. Non-negotiable. Ezra tried arguing, tried bargaining, tried threatening to sneak out anyway. Lucian didn't yell. He simply sat beside Ezra, eyes dark and steady. "After the delivery," Lucian said softly, "you can return to the ring. I'll even build you a private one." Ezra scowled. "You're bribing me." "Yes," Lucian agreed. "It's working." Ezra threw a plate. Lucian replaced it with a gold one. Ezra threw that too. Lucian sighed and ordered a custom unbreakable dinner set by morning. Camille watched the whole thing from the doorway, unimpressed. "Sir," she said dryly, "this is not how hostage situations usually go." Lucian didn't look away from Ezra. "He's nesting aggressively." Ezra flipped him off. Lucian worked from the mansion now. Meetings came to him. CEOs crossed continents to kneel politely in Ezra's living room while Ezra lounged on velvet couches, hormonal and dangerous, issuing unsolicited opinions. Lucian canceled billion-dollar negotiations because Ezra wanted strawberries at 3 in the morning. He bought entire brands Ezra casually mentioned liking once. And when threats arose, whispers, rumors, opportunists sensing vulnerability, Lucian handled them quietly. No headlines. No blood Ezra could see. Just absence. The rose garden became sacred. Lucian tended it himself now. No staff, no shortcuts. Every morning he walked Ezra slowly through the rows of red blooms, one hand steady at Ezra's back, the other laced through his fingers. "My red rose," Lucian murmured, brushing petals with reverence and then kiss Ezra's temple. Ezra pretended not to melt. Meeting Ezra's family happened unexpectedly. His parents arrived nervous until they saw Ezra. Alive, healthy, radiant in silk and stubbornness. His mother cried. His father stared at the estate like he'd stepped into a myth. Ezra proudly showed them everything. The restored company, the second empire he kept for himself. "I gave Dad the company back," Ezra announced, smirking. "I'm not heartless." Lucian nodded approvingly. "Sentimental, not foolish." Ezra's father nearly choked. "And this one?" his brother asked, pointing at the second company. Ezra grinned. "Mine. Built by my husband. I earned it by surviving him." Lucian smiled like a man in love. That night, as Ezra rested against Lucian's chest, listening to the steady rhythm beneath his ear, something settled. The anger softened. The fear dulled. He was restricted, yes. Hovered over. Watched. But he was also safe. Wanted. Terrifyingly loved. Lucian kissed his temple, whispering, "I will keep you." Ezra didn't argue. He closed his eyes instead. And for the first time, the cage felt like home. Chapter 5. The only world I'll ever need is you, my red rose. By the final weeks, Ezra no longer tried to escape. It wasn't because he couldn't. It was because he didn't want to. Pregnancy had reduced the notorious street menace to something far more dangerous, bedridden, sharp-tongued, and fully aware of how much power he held over his husband. Lucian hovered. Relentlessly. Ezra was forbidden from stairs. Forbidden from stress. Forbidden from lifting anything heavier than a teacup. Lucian personally carried him from bed to couch, from couch to balcony, ignoring Ezra's protests with maddening calm. "I can walk," Ezra snapped one afternoon. Lucian adjusted the blankets, voice mild. "You can threaten me from bed." Ezra rolled his eyes. "You're enjoying this." Lucian smiled. "Immensely." The mansion smelled like him now. Enigma pheromones woven into every room, warm and grounding, a constant reminder that Ezra was never alone. Never would be. The last remaining threats chose the worst possible moment to surface. Old rivals, corporate vultures, people who mistook Lucian's domestic devotion for weakness. Lucian didn't leave Ezra's side. He handled everything quietly, from the study, from encrypted calls, from whispered orders that never reached Ezra's ears. By morning, the threats were gone. Ezra noticed anyway. "You killed someone," Ezra muttered lazily, sipping juice. Lucian pressed a kiss to his temple. "I solved a problem." Ezra hummed. "Good." Labor began at dawn. Controlled chaos filled the mansion, doctors rushing, staff whispering, Camille issuing commands with military precision. Lucian never let go of Ezra's hand. When it was over, when the cries filled the room and the world narrowed to one impossible perfect moment, the doctor smiled. "A boy." Ezra laughed weakly. "Of course it's a menace." Lucian's hands shook as he held their child. "Rowan," Ezra murmured suddenly. Lucian looked up. "Rowan?" Ezra smirked tiredly. "Strong, unyielding, fits him." Lucian nodded, reverent. "Rowan Moreau Vale." The evening was quiet. Ezra reclined against silk cushions, wrapped in comfort, holding their newborn like royalty. Tired, radiant, victorious. Lucian knelt beside him, eyes shining, utterly undone. His pheromones saturated the mansion, warming the air, sealing the space as home for his two most precious beings, his red rose and their miracle. Ezra looked down at Lucian and scoffed softly. "You really did all this? For me?" Lucian kissed Ezra's hand, then their son's forehead. "I would burn worlds for you." Ezra smiled, soft, genuine, unafraid. "He bought me as a debt. I stayed because he made me a kingdom." And for the first time in his life, Ezra had everything. Epilogue. 2 menaces and a kingdom. 5 years later, peace still did not look normal in the Moreau Vale household. It never had. Chaos lived there, softened by silk, sharpened by devotion, and wrapped in the scent of red roses and Enigma pheromone that never quite faded from the walls. Ezra Vale still fought. Lucian had lost that war long ago. The ring tonight was underground but controlled, cleaner, safer, owned indirectly by a company Ezra pretended not to know was his husband's. The crowd roared as Ezra stood at the center, shoulders loose, grin feral, eyes bright with a familiar hunger for combat. In the VIP section, Lucian Moreau sat like a king. Beside him stood Rowan, 5 years old, dark-haired, sharp-eyed, already dangerous in the way children of powerful parents tended to be. "That's Mama!" Rowan shouted, standing on his seat, fists in the air. Lucian smiled, soft, proud, unhinged in a way only Ezra ever inspired. "Yes," he said reverently, "that's my red rose." Rowan looked at him suspiciously. "Mama's not a flower." Lucian hummed. "He's far more lethal." Ezra won in under 3 minutes. He always did. Bloodied but grinning, he climbed out of the ring and ignored everyone else. Cameras, medics, cheers, heading straight for them. Rowan launched himself into Ezra's arms without hesitation. "You were awesome," Rowan declared. Ezra laughed, breathless, holding his son tight. "You see that kick? That's yours someday." Lucian stepped in then, hands firm at Ezra's waist, mouth brushing his temple. "Still reckless," Lucian murmured. Ezra smirked, still obsessed. Lucian kissed him anyway. Their life was loud, messy, full of arguments and laughter and broken furniture Lucian replaced with something more expensive out of spite. Rowan inherited Ezra's chaos and Lucian's terrifying focus, already clever, already stubborn, already adored beyond reason. Camille once observed dryly, "Sir, you appear to be raising a second menace." Lucian had smiled. "I was never going to stop at one." That night, back at the mansion, Ezra lounged on the couch like royalty. Rowan sprawled across his chest, fast asleep. Lucian watched them from the doorway, heart full to the point of pain. Once he had bought Ezra as a debt. Now he ruled a kingdom built on love, obsession, and choice. Lucian crossed the room and kissed Ezra softly. Ezra opened one eye. "Still staring?" Lucian smiled. "Always." Their life was chaotic, but it was theirs. And Lucian Moreau did not have one, but two notorious menaces now. His red rose, and their little miracle.